Hey everybody, happy anniversary. 12 years ago this week, someone posted on Craigslist and said, hey, do you guys want to make stuff and talk about it? And then they met at 4 Market Square. And since then, almost every single Tuesday, no matter what is going on in the world, if there's a holiday or a pandemic or storms or snow, we get together and talk about making. And it is like our longest standing tradition. It's great. It's my favorite thing personally because I love seeing people get excited about their projects. I love seeing things that I had no idea existed. So this is really my favorite part. I feel honored that I get to MC tonight on our anniversary. Thank you all for coming. There's still plenty of food, so grab some afterward. We have 9 show and shares tonight. So, use the mic and keep it to 3 minutes. First up, we have Russel Riley with a laser cut map.
Hello, I'm Russel Riley, and tonight I'm sharing a success that I had from joining Makers. I make these wooden maps, and generally I was using just your basic plywood that you get from Lowe's or Home Depot, and the quality of wood wasn't very high. And I spoke to some of my fellow makers here, and they put me on to Jeffrey's, the wood shop out there in Seymour, and so I'm very thankful for that. This is a nice cabinet quality birch, so it doesn't have the problems that the plywood that you get from Lowe's might have. So I'm just sharing a improved version of a map that I normally make, and you can see that it burns quite well, and everything comes out real nice. Even the little bitty words come out really nice on it. So, John Dale, thank you very much.
Very pretty. Next up, we have Joe, who has Arduino 101. Do you need help?
No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but not with that.
Unrelated.
Yeah.
I was wondering whose that was.
So this is just to get your attention. This is just to get your attention. I've shown this before, and I've talked about this class that I'm going to teach before. There's probably a few people here who hadn't heard it, and other people, well, you go ahead and sit with it. What I'm here for is to talk about a class to teach basic electronics and computing using a embedded computer named the Arduino. The Arduino, the hardware itself is great, but the really great thing about it is the ecosystem that surrounds it. There's compilers, and there are social media sites, and anything you might want to do with an embedded controller, like blink lights, there's somebody somewhere that's already done it, and they'll have an example of how they did it, but you might not actually be able to understand clearly. You may not want to, but if you want to understand more clearly, what I'm going to be offering is a class, hopefully offering. It's going to be in 8 parts, and anybody interested can talk to me afterward. I can send you a copy of the 8 chapters of the book that I wrote. I'm going to be using. A little of my background. After I retired as an electrical engineer, I did a lot of writing to help teach novices about electronics and computing, and I wrote 70 articles for Nuts and Bolts magazine, and I wrote 3 books, and all of it's pretty obsolete now, so I've redone some of the stuff to make the book that I'm going to be using for the class, and I'm just going to show you this while it's at it. This guy here, can't really see it very well, but this chip here is the core of the original Arduino. It's a Atmega 328, well, 328. It's actually an earlier version whose name I can't quite remember now. But, you know, this is a breadboard. We're going to be doing breadboard work with class. And, you know, you can do things like this. This came to me because when I was a kid, they had lobby posters in the movie theaters, and they had blinking lights to attract your attention. And this is not an original. This is just a copy. And I did this part of the articles I wrote. I wrote like 4 articles on all the details of how to design this board and how to work it out into the big thing like that. And, you know, let me just, I know, 3 minutes. Okay. All right, this is the first chapter, and these are the parts that we're going to be using. What happened? Okay, these are the parts we're going to be using. The Arduino, the original one doesn't look like this. The original one's called Uno. This is the Nano. Actually, it wasn't even the Uno. There were several before that, Dice and Millions and stuff like that. Anyway, this is the Nano, smaller. That's a circuit board. You learn all about those. But there's some parts on here like, yeah. There's some parts on there that projects are built around like LEDs, 7-segment LEDs, a couple of sensors, light, temperature, push button, and a potentiometer and some resistors. And let me just quickly, he said, and then he screws up. Okay. Anybody who's actually interested in it, I'll be hanging around for a few minutes after this. I'll also be talking about it on the market day on the 14th. We're going to set up in the electronics section, and I'll be back there just twiddling around, and anybody interested, I can give them more details. And anybody wants to see the book eventually, if I do continue with this, I'll probably release it as an Amazon Kindle ebook. But right now, it's free as a PDF file if you want a copy of it. Any questions? Oh, yeah. Any questions? Okay, translate. Just tell me and I'll send you an email. I wrote a Google website, you know, Google Sites, learned how to do that, did 8 parts of it, and then realized I can't share the damn thing with everybody. It's complicated. It's very simple to do the website, but it's complicated to give anybody access to it. And basically, if I give you access, you can go in and change it. And there's ways to prevent that, but I hadn't learned them. So just afterward.
It's collaborative. That's what that's called, isn't it? Next on the list, we have Sabil, and he has a 3D printed and ergonomic keyboard. Ooh.
Let's see. That's too close. Hang on. All right, that's one. So there's 2. So this is an split ergonomic keyboard. There's 2 halves, so they're supposed to be connected. Oh, you connect one end and with a USB cable, and you connect both of them with a TRRS cable. And the nice thing about ergonomic keyboards is that if you have issues with your wrist or if you have issues with like keeping your hands like this to use a regular keyboard, it's nice to be able to spread your hands in order to. It's a lot more comfortable. So there's a lot of designs. There's like a whole community of keyboard builders online. So if you're ever interested, just search for mechanical keyboards. You'll find open source designs. This one is an open source design. So I bought the PCB online, but it was based on an open source design. This particular design, there's also a way to, instead of buying a PCB and soldering it, which is what I did. So all of these are these are the key switches, and behind them you had to plug them in and solder them in along with diodes. There's a way to do this by hand wiring it as well. So just get rid of the PCB, just do it painstakingly by hand. That's also possible if you are a crazy person. The base is 3D printed. This particular base takes about 8 hours, and then the panel, if you can see closely, that's actually acrylic. So I made it. It's hard to see, but like I lasered on like circuit board designs on it just for fun. But it's mostly complete. I'm still figuring out how to make it work together correctly. I can individually connect them with USB cables, and each half works fine. But the way it's supposed to work is that you plug in just one half and connect the two halves with each other, and that's not quite working. It's the other half, though it's not connected with a USB, the signals aren't coming through, so I had to debug that. And as you can see, there's like 8 switches that still need caps because I ran out, and I didn't really want to buy a whole new set because you just get a whole like full 106 key set. So I just asked a coworker who's also a mechanical keyboard enthusiast, see if he had like 8 spare keycaps. He did. He dropped it off in my office today. But yeah, I think that's it. Oh yeah, see the keycaps I bought online, so they're just from Amazon. So these switches are the quieter ones. I did want to buy the really loud ones because they're very satisfying, but yeah. But my office mate would go insane, so I chose not to do that. So out of respect for him or any other place that I go that's a public space where clicking would be interfering with other people. Yes?
Is that an Arduino?
It is, in fact. I don't actually know. So I am. Is a Pro Micro an Arduino? Yes, then yes, it is. They are. I'm not actually too familiar with how Arduinos work. I just solder them in and hope to God that it would work correctly. Fortunately, it did. But yeah, that's the keyboard.
Ask a question. Hold on. Whoa. Which one is the space bar?
There.
Trying to figure out which key you intend the space bar to be.
So this is fairly new. I'm still not familiar with the layout yet. One of these, the corner ones, should be the space bar.
I've been sitting here trying to figure out because I don't know my.
Because it's supposed to be the thumbs, right? So the way it works is that a lot more keys are reachable with your thumbs, and you can still reach things with your pinky, but you're not struggling so hard to hit the control or the alt. Like they're supposed to be reachable with your thumbs, like here or here, and that's what makes it nicer because your pinky's not as strained. Yes.
What keyboard firmware are you using?
QMK. It's the one that already had the programmed layout for this. It just makes things easier. So QMK is just a very popular open source keyboard firmware. Lots of different keyboards, like these hand-built enthusiast type things. The QMK is what people would usually use to compile and flash their firmware to set up whatever crazy keyboard layout that they want. Yes.
One thing is if you have two things that would kind of slide apart as you were doing, do you have trouble like keeping the keys where you want them to be, or at least
I mean, I haven't used them yet, probably because these aren't. It's just like flat plastic. So I guess I'd have to put rubber pads or something to prevent that from happening. I would anticipate that would happen. But yeah.
That's what they do on the bottom of the trackballs. I use the trackball too.
Right. What's that? Sure. That's my next project. Like additions to my office chairs, handles. What do you call them? Armrests. All right. Thank you.
Next up, we have Tim Hall, who has an RC controller mod. Where is he? Oh, there he is. So I'm sitting right there.
Yeah.
Does yours also use Arduino?
No.
Oh, we tried.
But, I mean, it can control virtually anything RC, so.
You could make an Arduino with it.
So I do a lot of stuff with RCs over any type of them, driving them in the air, on the water, and land, and fighting them. And this is the typical controller that you would have when you're driving pretty much anything. But if you're driving it on land especially, this isn't really intuitive for any kind of control like that. Like, here's your throttle, there's your steering, you know, that doesn't in any way feel normal. But there are companies that make pistol grip style controllers, and they've got this little wheel right here, and this is your trigger for your throttle for forward and reverse, and it's very, very intuitive to drive that. Problem is, nobody makes one of these that can control everything. So like the One Ring, this is not it. This just controls one specific RC vehicle, and that's absolutely all that it could ever do. This can actually control anything that I want to hook it up to. So it doesn't matter if it's a store-bought one. You can go to Walmart and buy it and find the protocol, and this radio can bind up to it. You can buy any receiver out there, this radio can bind up to it. And the company that makes this makes little modules that you can put in the back of other radios just like this that will allow you to still control anything like that. They also make a smaller cousin of it, which looks like that, and it has half the channels, and I absolutely love this controller. If you're going to fly anything, that's the one to go with. But the problem is that they don't make the pistol grip style, but some enterprising person on Thingiverse actually built one, and if you take one of those controllers that I showed you, you can actually 3D print the entire casing for it and fit the entire monster inside of it. I've not screwed it together, that's why it's falling apart. And this is what the transmitter that originally looked like, and that's all the guts that now fit inside this other controller. The only thing that doesn't fit in there are these two black things, which are the gimbals, which are the sticks. You actually cut the wires from the sticks and use them on pieces for this thing. So the pistol grip trigger here, and enterprising people may notice there's no wheel because my daughter ran off with it right before I came over here, and I don't know where it went. But the wheel would normally be here, and you could steer with that. But you've got all of your controller switches and everything else that you would normally have on the bigger controllers. But you've also got this little guy right here, which is a multi-protocol module, which can control anything out there. So now this is a land or sea-based controller that I could also use for kill switch bots that you can control holding it just like you would a standard pistol grip controller, and you can steer and everything else with it. It's got the trims and everything else that the bigger controller would have. You can flip all of your switches. You've got these pots that you can use for different types of controls. It's got momentary switches and everything else on it that you would have on the bigger controller, but it's all in a nice ergonomic package that you can control with just, you know, all flipping switches with this hand while you're steering. And once I get this thing completely finished and find my wheel, then I'm looking forward to actually testing it on a kill switch bot.
Gonna call your next bot Frankenstein's Monster or something like that. Next up we have Simone and Susanna with custom coats.
Hey everybody, it's been a while. So we go to Otakon every year, which is a big anime and manga and becoming like Asian culture festival every year. And while we're up there, we've been going there so often that we're now on staff, and we help run the hallway costume contest. And in years past, we've had a problem backstage because we're in this huge convention hall, and we have these people who have costumes on, and they're freaking out because they have to come and like be in front of people like this, and like it's a huge stage and they've never done it before. And one of the problems that we've had in the past is recognizing us, you know, and you're staffing something that huge, it's easy to get lost and, you know, not be identifiable. So Simone had this fantastic idea. Hey, Mom, let's make happy coats for our department, and then they'll be able to tell who we are. So that's how it started at the end of last year. And through the process, this right here is this is the file that I created for the happy coats. Simone has hers here. Yeah, it's a really simple kind of coat. And what we did is I had to, yeah, other side. Yeah, I had to draw the design, and I drew it, and then she did all of the legwork to get it printed out, and to put the cool letters on the back that she cut out, and we hot pressed here, that glow in the dark. So we were identifiable backstage.
Looks like that.
Yeah, looks like that.
Yeah, you can't really read it, but it says Hall Costume Contest.
Yeah, do you want to talk about what you did?
Yeah, to put the lettering on it, I used the Cameo Silhouette vinyl cutter, and I used the software that they have with it, and I measured the size of the circle here, and I created a path that would then lock the letters to the circle so that they would bend in the correct angle, so when you put it on, it didn't, like, I didn't have to place each individual letter, and then I cut it out and heat pressed it on. I looked up reflective glow-in-the-dark vinyl to find this. There's lots of different ones. There's very cool vinyls out there. But it was super effective. If you have something that's glow-in-the-dark, if you have like a UV flashlight, you can get it to glow super, super fast that way. And so we had those so that we could get it to glow when we wanted it to glow.
Yeah, the one thing that we didn't quite factor in is when you're going to a convention that it turned out had 40,000 people at it, and you have this like custom jacket that is, you know, you did a good job on it, and it's like kind of cool. And you got 40,000 people there saying, that's really cool. Where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? I want one right now. You know, we had to, you know, move a little quickly in some places and, you know, apologize a lot. She says, really sorry. Yeah, that was cool. And an unexpected but good problem. Mostly good. Mostly good. Yeah, mostly good. Alrighty. And that's been, you know, our last couple of weeks. What? Lori?
I found someone online who does custom printed garments. They did specifically happy coats, and I sent them the art, and they
Yeah, you did.
put it on.
Yeah.
And it has pockets.
It had pockets on the inside.
Pockets.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's our project.
Just need to bring extras next year and then get mobbed even more. Next up, we have Neil Smith with some bookends.
Well, I only have 3 minutes, so I guess I have to skip the part where I started with projects back in 3rd grade. New member, first show and share. I will try and keep it as close to 3 minutes as possible. I was a graphic designer for roughly 40 years and retired, and when I did, that was the second happiest day of my life because I no longer had to rent software from Adobe. And so I also got to finally start making the things I wanted to make instead of what the clients demanded of me. And my wife has an uncle who I'll be in Chicago next week for his 99th birthday. An incredible person. He was an industrial designer. When he retired at 65, he went back to school to a college in outside of Chicago, Harbor College, and he's been taking art classes there for the past 35 years. And he started, his father was a tailor, so a lot of the themes of the artwork that he created dealt with sewing needles. And that gave me the idea to start creating some things. Unfortunately, I don't have the set of bookends that I made for him, which was his birthday present last year. But to give you an idea, I believe in making multiple copies of something, because if I screw up one, then I've got others to fall back on, especially if it's something that takes a lot of setup, so you don't have to go through the setup again. So I ended up making 3 sets of these bookends, and this one is the one that I ended up. And it's a little bit of a takeoff on the Arthurian legend. And give you an idea about size here, and I'll see if this works under the camera. There we go. The tag reads, "Whoso pulleth out the sword." I saw you doing. Oh, it's upside down. Oh, how do we? Oh, there we go. Oh, this is even easier for me to read now. Okay. I'm new here. "Whoso pulleth out the sword of this stone is rightwise king born." Hence the Arthurian legend. So we have a sword here. And the sword itself, if I can get it in the right light, which I can't, the pommel here and the handguard is made from brass that was cut out of plumbing pieces that was either filed or put on my small lathe to turn that. And then the wooden handle is rosewood that I also put on my small lathe to cut that. The blade of the sword itself, which again, can't really get any light on it. But anyway, that was a 1/4-inch round piece of bar steel that I flattened using a map torch and then ground the edges into it. The stone here that it's in is not actually a real stone. It is a molding of a stone, because I knew I was going to have to cut a stone in half, so I found what I considered to be the perfect stone for this, made a rubber mold, and then used plumber's putty to make a copy of it, and then the 3 copies. Now the right side of the book ends, and I'll get it right this time, is, "Whoso pulleth out the gouge of the stone is rightwise king's bodger." Now, king's bodger is the English term for a wood turner, and that's my thing. I love wood turning. So that is the only piece that actually pulls out, because I'm the bodger, so I'm the king's bodger. The plaques, by the way, the plaques here was my first attempt at acid etching copper plates. So this project was actually a first for me in the sense of molding something using a rubber mold, a little bit of metal work, forging the blade, and then the copper plates. The wood I was pretty familiar with. The other 2 sets that were made, Uncle Bernie, who was 98 at the time, his right side bookend is a sewing needle that gets pulled out because his father was a tailor, and as I mentioned, his artwork has the theme of sewing needles. And the 3rd set that I made was for a friend of mine that I've known since 3rd grade, who's an attorney, and the part in the right-hand book end was a gavel, and he is the king's barrister. So that was the 3 sets of the bookends that I made. That's it. Oh, and one more thing. I don't know if anybody here has ever heard of the Ghost Army. I guess not. The Ghost Army was an incredible group. It was 1,100 soldiers in World War II. That you might find it interesting to Google it and see who they are and what they did. And they were makers of an incredible degree that you won't believe some of the stuff that they did. And Bernie right now is, out of the 1,100 soldiers, Bernie right now is one of 9 that's still alive. And it's an honor to be able to do these things for him, and to see some of the recognition that the Ghost Army is now getting, because they were just awarded the Congressional Gold Medal for their service in World War II.
That's the guys that made the inflatable tank?
Yeah, inflatable tanks, inflatable planes. Yeah, it is an incredible story. Like I said, if you're not familiar with it, Google it, and there's a lot on web. By the way, it was a top security issue until 1996, and it wasn't until 1996 that they declassified it, and the families of those men were told what their fathers and husbands did in the war. So.
Thank you, Neil. Can't wait to see what you make next. Next up, we have Brian, who didn't put down what he made, except that it's a failure. So I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Hey everybody, glad to be here. Oh, this is not a big piece of foam I can knock off. Something's not right here. I want to talk about a 2-piece mold I was working on. Let's see, the zoom in feature. Okay, so basically making the first part of the mold, took some vinyl, peeled it off, taped it down so sticky sides up, put some foam around it, sealed the base with some hot glue so nothing leaks out. And then from there, I was making a set of dice. So you see I got a couple of corks put in there as registration marks, and then put the dice all down. And this thing is poured basically upside down. So put that in there, went ahead and used the vacuum chamber to degas my silicone, and then poured it, and worked wonderfully. That part worked great. Came out being a nice set of dice, you know, I mean, exactly how you want it. Now the next part is you take the form, put it back around it again, put a mold release of some sort in there, and then pour on top, which makes the top portion of it. I decided to, didn't have any commercial mold release, and I'd used Vaseline in the past and it worked fine, but I know that can be degrading to the silicone, so I used some coconut oil. Well, that thing fused solid like a block. That did not even come close to working. My dice were in there. I had to get them out anyhow. So cut along the seam and slowly, finally wound up peeling it apart. But nowhere near as nice as if it was a nice two-piece mold. You know, it definitely looked pretty rough. So I consider this one a complete failure in that effort. I've already re-poured the first set, and I'm waiting on some commercial mold release. It should show up tomorrow at my house. But since I had it, I thought, well, I'm curious to see what they look like even though it looks like this. And I took the two-piece plastic that's already out there and went ahead and poured a set. And it didn't do too bad. The parts that are all submerged are fine. It's just wherever registration marks were at the top that it didn't line up well. And you know, and I didn't expect them to come out nice either. You know, one thing I found very interesting though is that two-piece plastic out there in the yellow and blue bucket. It's got a working time of 10 minutes. So, you know, don't daydream or get off into something else because it'll be gone in that time. Any questions? All right. Yeah, yo. Hey, David.
Are you going to try doing it with resin instead?
Oh, yeah. I intend to cast resin the whole time. It's just that I didn't want to drag it out and get it when this was right there ready to go. Give it a try. I'm going to circulate the dice around in case everyone wants to take a look at it.
Thank you for the lesson, Brian. Next up, we have Russell Portwood with a lamp failure. I didn't know you knew how to make those.
I didn't want to disappoint Billy. Billy always says it's a lamp. Well, this time it actually is. Yeah, how about that? Russell gave me this cool box that has in it, actually this is what I was after, this very cool bottle. Now, I do need to have a conversation with him because when he gave it to me, it was empty. So we need to work on that part. But I was going to make a lamp out of the bottle, and I just started right in on it, started making it. And that's where I went wrong because I didn't spend enough fret time. Because usually I fret a long time over, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I just started. I started to use a cigar box for a base. And I thought, why would I use a cigar box when I've got this cool box? So, got started, drilled a hole in it, put a light in it. The idea, put it on top so that it'll light the bottle up. Put it all together, and, oh, that's bright. So, there.
This doesn't look like a fail.
Well, it works, but in retrospect, because the boxes are sort of cardboard, there's no good way to like secure it over the light. So when I started thinking about it, why didn't I put the light in the bottom so that when you open it, the switch activates and it lights from the bottom? Not enough fret time. So anyway, that's the fail. If, Russell, if you want me to work on it and redo it or whatever, we can work on it. Now this is, I do want him to understand, this was a trade for embroidering a gross of shirts. Just kidding. I only need about 60. Just kidding.
Right on it. I'll get right on it.
Okay, right. Anyway, we can work on it. The other part of the fail is if I do redo it, look where I put the cord. Duh, so I'll have to redo that. And it would be nice if rather than having to plug it in to turn it on, it had a switch. So multiple fails, but maybe we can fix it. I'll get with you and see what you want to do.
I don't think this is a fail. I think this is an iterative process and a plan to get more full bottles.
Okay. That's, yeah. Just enough, that's right, that's right. Russell, I need another bottle. They light up. Yeah, and they light up better if the original liquid is inside. That's right, yeah. That way it gets lit and I get lit. Okay, there was a question somewhere. Yes. Okay, all right. There, you heard it, Russell.
I'll work on it.
Okay, all right, you heard it.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. I know I got my 3 minutes, but Rob's lamp, I have put in the proper amount of fret time, so perhaps it won't be a fail. Maybe we'll see it next week. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
If you get all your fails in one project, then all your other projects will be perfect, right? Last but not least, we have Narita, who has a plywood scrap carving.
So it's literally just a scrap plywood. I made a picture thing here. All right. Scrap plywood bin. Y'all know in the wood shop, there's just people chuck their stuff. So literally just a chunk of scrap plywood. I turned 33 in May and my dad gifted me a really nice wood carving set. I had never tried carving anything by hand. I've done lots of other random projects, so I figured, you know, I'll just pick up a chunk of scrap and see what happens. So I came in, did some carving on the tables in the wood shop. Started out looking kind of cool. And I was like, all right, well, this is looking like something I can keep messing with. Then after I got it carved out, I decided that I would add some paint on it. So I got some acrylic paint and started adding some designs onto it. And as each layer came on, I was like, oh, this is turning out pretty cool. So this is my first scrap carving. So the only like precision tool I used was a compass to get the initial circle right, because I was like, you know, trying to trying to carve a circle out of wood is probably gonna be pretty hard. I can't even draw a circle, so let's not go there. And then, the thing with the plywood is, as, like, in the different areas, some of it's a lot harder than others. So there were like chunks in here that were really hard to carve out. And so some of them like slid in and cut so nicely, so I got like really nice grooves. And others I was able to get really nice, clean, round lines, and then others it was just like chunking out. So it was just a fun learning process. And then I have some gold cord that I'm thinking of putting around the border because the plywood edge is not very pretty. But I haven't quite figured out what I'm gonna do for the edge yet. But yeah. Oh, lots of questions.
Did you sketch out the design kind of slow?
No.
Did you let the wood talk?
No, I had my set of carving tools out and I was like, oh, I wonder what this one does. So I put one out and just tried it out. And I was like, oh, well, this makes a really nice, like, sharp line. Okay, this one I can control and make more of a curved line. This one I can chunk out more material with. So it was just a process of like playing around, and it turned into something that's like, all right. So, yeah.
It has to be asked. How long did it take you?
I think the carving part I worked on over two Tuesday nights, and like one other small, like an hour-long time in between that. So it's probably like 5 hours of the carving, and then another like hour or two sitting here with the paint, but also a lot of gabbing, so I don't know how much time was actually spent working.
Okay.
Can you turn it into a light?
Man, that would frame it nicely, right? Like a shadow box. Maybe that's what I need. Like poke some lights through.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, y'all.
All right, that's it for our show and share. We're still working on populating classes for this month, but we do have a couple of events coming up. On the 14th, which is a Sunday, Joe mentioned already, we're having a maker market. So we have a lot of vendors. We have sold, I'm pretty sure we're close to selling out or have sold out of tables, so that's super exciting. A lot of you are already volunteering. If you're not volunteering, come shopping. We have food trucks coming. We have people selling all kind, like a very wide variety of things. It'll be a good time. Get all your shopping done for the rest of the year. To prepare for that, on Saturday, we're having a little bit of a space day. I think Sean is working mostly in his area, so if you're interested in helping him, you can message him and get the hospitality and the front area ready. And then he said he would be here around 11 on Saturday. Next Tuesday, we are not sure on the time, but it will be before show and share. We have a film crew coming in to do a spot, a very short spot for the Maker Summit. So if you see them here, maybe don't like run in front of the camera. So just, there might be a film crew here, and it's cool. That's all I've got for announcements. This Thursday, this is not a Makerspace announcement, but it's still important. This Thursday is primary voting. We don't talk about who we vote for, but it's still important to vote, so please do that. Tonight, if you don't mind to help bring the tables back, they go in that back corner, put all the chairs back, clean up, bring your food home. If you brought food, please bring it home, or, like eat it before you go. Share it. There's still food left. It shouldn't only take a few minutes, and the trash needs to go out. And other than that, let's have some fun. Sorry? Oh, yes, the air filters also need changing because it's hot and they're running like 24/7 now. So have a good time tonight. Thank you all for coming.